Bay Area to the beaches in San Diego and all points in between. Let's turn on the filter. Off the top, he said, she said, 3 topics, 2 minutes each. Anything goes. As always, there are no taboos. Now, do you think it's taboo to let undocumented immigrants pay in-state tuition to California colleges? Well, according to the Supreme Court, it is the law in California, and it was upheld. A decade ago, the state legislature voted to use a high school degree as the in-state qualification and not the legal status of the student. So even if you're here illegally, but graduate from a California high school, you get the discount. U.S. residents that come from other states pay full price. Should you be allowed to pay less if you're not a legal citizen? Our contributors, Doctor of Social Ethics Charlotte Laws and civil rights attorney and radio talk show host Leo Terrell. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. Leo, I'll start with you. What should determine residency? Where you graduated from high school or if you're a citizen?
Well, I'll tell you, Fred, the issue here is very simple. The lawmakers have said if you graduate from high school, you get in-state tuition. That settles the issue. It's not an immigration issue. It's an issue of completing high school. And your opening statement was perfect. I couldn't have said it better. If an illegal immigrant finishes high school, they should get in-state tuition.
Yeah, but Leo, all right, I get that. Does that make it right? Does that make it right? I understand what the lawmakers said, but a lot of people disagree with the lawmakers here. What do you think?
My personal opinion, I think it's perfectly okay. You know, it seems like on one hand, we want to bash illegal immigration, but it's okay for them to clean our restrooms, cut our yards, mow our grass, paint our houses. But then on the other hand, we want to punish them. I don't get it. We send a mixed message. Employers hire illegal aliens, Fred, and on one hand, they say, oh, we don't want to give them these benefits. We can't have this mixed message because let's face it, people in California abuse, exploit illegal immigrants for purposes of cheap labor. But when they want to educate themselves, when they want to improve themselves, oh, no, you can't do that. They are following the laws, regardless of whether or not they're residents or legal status.
All right, go ahead, Charlotte. What do you think about this?
I don't agree with you, Leo. I think that it's unfair. It's unfair for those people who are legal, who are out of state, who have to pay $20,000 a year more in order to go to school. I think it incentivizes bad behavior. It says you're getting a handout, so there's a reason to come over the border and not obey the law. And we have a deficit. We're looking at $10 billion a year deficit the new fiscal year. We don't have the money to support it. If we had tons of money, everybody could have in-state tuition. That's not what we have. It's not fair to the taxpayers to have to carry this burden.
Let me tell you right now, I want to make this clear. Someone from New York, Texas, Ohio can go to school there, but in high school, come to California for the sole purpose of getting that in-state tuition discount. So it's just not being unfair to out-of-state students because they come in here into this state and graduate from high school. That's the only requirement. This is not an immigration issue. This is a in-state graduate from high school issue.
Charlotte, Charlotte, like, 10 seconds. Last word, 10 seconds, go.
This is like what we're basically doing is we're saying, okay, you're here. We're saying like to a bank robber, if you get into the vault, we'll give you the money. That's basically what it is. It's just not fair. It's not a good idea from any angle.
All right, let's move on. Now, if you've dealt with this, and I hope you haven't, but if you have, you know how excruciating it can be. Seeing a loved one suffering unbearable pain, watching them suffer from an incurable illness. Should that person have the right to die? The Final Exit Network says yes. The nonprofit group has rolled out billboards in major cities, including San Francisco and Los Angeles. Irreversible illness, unbearable pain, die with dignity, join Final Exit Network. Their belief, mentally competent adults have a basic right to end their lives when they suffer from a fatal or irreversible illness. The medical director of the group was found innocent after being charged with manslaughter last month in Arizona. There was also a case pending in Georgia. Are the billboards distasteful? Is the Final Exit Network providing a service or committing a crime, Charlotte?
I think they're providing a valuable service. And I actually have a little bit of experience with this because my mom committed suicide when I was 18. And she was hooked up to machines, and she was semi-conscious for about 10 years until she actually officially died. And it was really a bad situation. It would have been much better if she died earlier. And I think people have a right to self-determination. They should be able to die if they're in pain and they want to die. And to me, it's amazing that the government's going to come in and say, sorry, we're the decision makers and you don't have a right to die. It's like death is not part of the Constitution, so everybody freaks out about it. And obviously, according to polls, about 70% of the people in this country agree with me, and yet there are only 3 states that allow people to have physician-assisted suicide: Oregon, Washington, and Montana.
All right, Leo, I'm going to ask you from 2 perspectives. First, your own, and then the legal question here. Is this offensive, or is it breaking the law?
It's not breaking the law. I agree with Charlotte. I had that personal experience of seeing my grandmother basically in a semi-coma, and she had to sit there in that hospital, and that's a lasting imprint. That's 35 years ago, and I can still recall that. She was in pain. She wasn't enjoying the fruits of life. She should have been allowed to end her life in a more graceful, with dignity. As far as I'm concerned, you know, Fred, if somebody is in a coma, you have the right, people have the right to sign what they call durable powers to allow family members to make that decision. But an individual, the person who is suffering this pain, should have the right to die with dignity.
Wouldn't the question be, Leo, but legally, wouldn't the question be, are they competent enough to make that decision?
Well, Fred, when you say competent, is it to sign a contract? To make a life and death decision is a person who should have competent. I don't see how that is not, let me back up. If the person is competent, yes. If there's something about that person's mental capability, then that's another story. That should be in the hands of their family members. But I don't see a problem with a person with all their faculties to do so.
All right. You agreed on that. Let's see how you feel about this. Now, I don't mean to offend you, but I have a personal question. You don't have to raise your hand, but you know who you are. Have you ever sent a naked picture of yourself to someone? There's no judgment here. I'm just asking you a question. We all know that Anthony Weiner sent a few revealing pictures out. We also know that he had some explicit Facebook conversations, and we know that he's married. One thing I think we can all agree on, that's inappropriate. But it's flirtatious, and for some, nice to get the attention. Is it clean, innocent fun? Or is it crossing the line? Sexting, sending pictures on Facebook or Twitter. Is that cheating, Leo?
Let me be clear. I have never sent a naked picture of myself on Facebook. Let me be very clear about that.
Well, what,
okay.
I saw it, Leo. I know it was there. I saw it.
Leo, aren't you proud of yourself?
I want to make sure. I got my hand out there, Fred. I never have sent a picture such as that.
Okay.
But if you're married, like Anthony Weiner, he's a nut. Now, I think it's fun. To what extent? It depends on the relationship, Fred, very simply, with the person you have. If it's a stranger, no way. If it's somebody you're close with, yes. But it depends on the nature of the relationship.
I understand what you're saying, Leo. Let's get Charlotte in here now, then we'll go back to you. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Well, first of all, as a vegetarian, I don't know much about wieners. That's the first thing.
Oh, good Lord.
That's very good. That looks very good.
And secondly, I'm married to an Englishman, too, so you can add that on. But I actually don't think it's cheating. And, you know, it's like it's basically all it is intention. It's what Jimmy Carter said. It's sinning in your heart. Because you could take an underwear model, a Calvin Klein underwear model, who sends out the picture of him. What's the difference between that and what Weiner did? It's just intention. What if you're walking down the street with your spouse and your husband says, nice dress, to some strange lady? Does he want to go out with her, or does he just like her dress? Probably 99.9% of people have, quote, sinned in their heart. It's not cheating. It's ridiculous. There has to be a physical relationship.
Charlotte, you would agree that it depends on the relationship of the parties. For example, what Weiner did was absolutely wrong. But it was.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their relationship is, what his relationship is with his wife. So I do think it's a personal thing. I agree with you on that. I mean, I think it's a little weird to be sending pictures out like that. I mean, to me, it's a kind of bizarre behavior. But I don't think it's cheating. I wouldn't be that thrilled if I was the wife, but I wouldn't divorce him over it. And I would probably just sit down and have a conversation with him.
Okay, so Charlotte, if you found out that your husband had sent a picture of himself, or multiple pictures in different positions, to assorted women.
Different positions.
Well, you would sit down and go, honey, I don't really understand, and it's okay.
Well, I would think it's bizarre, but yeah, I wouldn't think it's a divorceable thing. No, it's
Fred,
like it's like attempted adultery, but it's not adultery.
Fred, if that happened, if that happens, Charlotte would be calling Leo Terrell. Even though I don't do divorce law, she'll be calling Leo Terrell for legal assistance.
All right, and I know Charlotte has your number. Leo, Charlotte, thank you both very much. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred.